Tommy Buggeroy, I shocked Catherine Murphy, Social Democrat.
Thank you. To join with the sympathies and the sentiments that have already been expressed. Taoiseach, the announcement today on the lifting of the restrictions was yet another startling display of confusion, incoherence and chaos, to be frank, from this government. With just 3 days to go before many businesses which have been closed for nearly 2 years are due to open, the rules are being rewritten. Taoiseach, we all accept that the rates of COVID transmission can surge very quickly and can be unpredictable. But what is not unpredictable is what we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that how the disease is spread. It's airborne. Taoiseach. Businesses have been given absolutely no guidance on the manner in which they can improve ventilation and make their businesses safer. Air filtration units, for example, could be rolled out to schools for as little as €12 million, but they have not been issued. Now, nightclubs and music venues are going to get advice on how they can open their business, at the last possible moment. All indoor businesses where people congregate should have been given guidance on ventilation months ago. You said yesterday, Taoiseach, that you were a great fan of antigen testing, and that came as a surprise to many of us because there's no evidence that anyone in government is a fan of antigen testing. Now we're told that the continued reopening is to a large extent contingent on antigen testing being rolled out to scale. Why wasn't that done before? And how is this mammoth surge in the use of antigen testing going to work, given that there's almost zero prior planning for that? We're told, for example, you can dance in nightclubs, but you can't go to the bar for a drink. Like it's very confusing. You probably could dance to the bar. But in your address earlier, Taoiseach, you attempted to defray the blame by voicing this on personal responsibility. And I think Irish people have been brilliant in terms of what they've done. I think we all agreed that got vaccinated in their droves and so on. And stayed at home when they were told to. But there is other issues here in terms of planning and always been at an emergency. There's also the issue of the creaking hospital capacity 20 months into the disaster, and there's a modest target of an increase of 66 ICU beds this year. That hasn't been met, Taoiseach, and no mention of additional capacity in this year's budgets. So, Taoiseach, would you accept that there has been a failure to plan in terms of, and we're back at kind of an emergency stage here in terms of the opening of businesses and the criteria, and the failure to accept that this is an airborne virus? The ads that are being rolled out at the moment, you have to go wash your hands. The evidence is not that it's transmitted by touch. The evidence is that it's transmitted, that it's an airborne virus. Why hasn't there been the attention on that there needs to be?
The first point I would make is this, and every time we have a debate around when restrictions come in, go out, it's the same debate. I recall here in the Dáil, before the summer, the very measure which enabled us to open hospitality, the vaccination cert. It was a very hot debate, heated debate, with members opposite saying it's the worst thing we could possibly do. Yet it enabled the reopening of hospitality. It enabled the reopening of restaurants and pubs. And has anybody said here we got that wrong on the opposition side? Or that they were confused? Or that they gave an incoherent message? And it's always trying to pick holes. And I acknowledge there are difficulties, Deputy, I do. And particularly for the sectors concerned. Of course there are challenges. But remember, COVID does not respect sort of weekly sort of decision-making on a precision basis. Because 2 weeks ago, in our conversations with public health officials, this scenario was not on the horizon. The case numbers have taken a turn for the worst. And we have to respond. That's it. Simple as that. Now, what NPHET said to us very clearly was that they felt, they did not believe, and they've written to us saying they did not believe that, or nor did they think it was tenable that any pause now. So we could have decided to pause everything and not open anything afresh. They said they did not believe it tenable that any pause now would result in a further easing of measures in November. The NPHET has therefore recommended on a balance The remaining aspects of the hospitality, entertainment and nighttime economy sector can reopen only with the full range of protective measures in place and the wide and robust implementation of the COVID-19 pass. In this regard, guidance should be developed or updated as appropriate by the relevant sectors. And then it lists all the various measures, and it uses the phrase, including the appropriate use of masks, physical distancing, ventilation, mitigation measures. That's what's in the NPHET letter. And they're now saying they don't see those being removed until February 2022. And so it's where appropriate, and there has to be practical application of this in different settings. And I know people will raise all the anomalies and what about you can do that over there and you can do this over there and I can't do that up there. Those will arise in scenarios like this, but the key point is this. Anything we've reopened so far has stayed open. And these restrictions have not, despite what some lobbies are saying and so on, hasn't inhibited a lot of activity because the revenue is showing, the VAT receipts are showing there's a lot going on in many sectors because of the reopening of society and of the economy. And so it's better to try and proceed reopening, albeit with restrictions that people will find frustrating. But again, it's because of the turn of the virus, the virus has turned for the worse, that there is a timeline problem for the sector. I acknowledge that. And the need for guidance and the need to engage with the sector and do practical, sensible things to enable reopening and to enable the facilitation of plans that sectors that up to now had been closed had in place. And we've got to work with sectors to do that. And the same applies to return to work. The LEAF Forum is meeting today, for example, the employee representatives and union representatives to discuss that whole area in terms of the return to work on a safe basis.
The issue of the fact that this virus is airborne. I mean, there was a committee, an expert committee in place, but there didn't seem to be anything coming from that in terms of advice. Yet we know it's airborne. What guidance has been given to the sectors that are remaining closed? And what guidance do you anticipate that the government will give to that sector? Or is it exclusively for that sector to find that out for themselves? Because I think we all accept it's very late in the day, and people are saying what they need is some degree of certainty. Now, there doesn't seem to be an acceptance. I was just listening to an ad during the week, and it was still wash your hands, wear the mask. It wasn't giving the guidance about it being airborne, and yet that's where we know it's spread. We can't put all our eggs in the vaccination basket. That's very clear. So we have to address the central point of where the virus is spread. What are you doing about that, in particular in relation to congregated settings, for example, with schools, with units that you can simply plug in, with nightclubs, music venues? What guidance is being given on that?
There that we can't put all the eggs in the vaccination basket alone. And in fact, that's what the CMO said to us last evening. He made that very point. It's a game changer, of course, vaccination is, but we need additional non-pharmaceutical protections as well to be in play to keep the virus at bay, and particularly during the winter season, because there could be a seasonality factor in our climate, and tend to be more indoors during the winter period in terms of socialisation and so forth. So I take that point. On ventilation, guidance documents have been prepared and have issued. In respect of schools, for example, CO2 monitors have been sent to schools across the length and breadth of the country, and that's the recommendation that they received in terms of how they should operate proper ventilation policy in primary and in second-level schools. And the development of sectoral guidance is not something new. It's something that has been ongoing since the commencement of the pandemic itself. And it is something that can be achieved working with the representative organisations of a given sector and government departments and the relevant department.